Hello, my name is Mary Gordon from Roots of Empathy, and I'd like to speak with you today about the temperament trait of adaptability. Adaptability means the ease with which a person adjusts to a situation. And that's all of us. And we are living in a world with unprecedented change. So the idea of understanding how our child adapts to new situations can be very helpful to them for their own understanding of why they get upset about some things and what strategies you can help them deliver. If you think about the continuum of adaptability, children who have low adaptability have great challenges with transitioning from one situation to another. And they're very often thrown off guard by a sudden change. If you're on the high end of the continuum of adaptability, it means that you find it interesting when something changes and a new situation is stimulating rather than worrisome. The role of the parent is to take the child we have and to recognize where that child sits on the continuum, but also to recognize where we sit on the continuum. Are we somebody who has a high adaptability level where change is something that is interesting? Or do we prefer things to stay in a regular routine? Do we not want to change where the rocking chair is? Or are we the person who's changing the furniture every week because we find it interesting? So, this whole idea of how we think of our little children in terms of adaptability can help us all get along better. So, for example, if you have a little baby and that baby um, is really motivated and stimulated when you put novelty in the environment, if you put something new, if you change the baby's routine so that the nap is at a different time, or if you change where the baby sleeps, imagine you go on holiday and the baby is sleeping in a different environment. Some little babies have no trouble with that transition, but other babies who would be lower on the continuum of adaptability might be freaked out by having to sleep in new circumstances, a different kind of lighting, things smell different, they feel different. And that little baby will need our comfort, our physical and emotional comfort, to help them transition to a new situation. It's not that you would never do anything to prevent change happening. You would just be aware that you would be available to help that child feel comfortable with change. So if you're on the high level of adaptability and you're in a family where your partner is the opposite end, you've got a lot of negotiation to do, but you realize that that's the issue. It's just with our children, having a lens of adaptability can really make things easier for them to help them understand themselves. So when that little baby goes to school and they're very happy in school, and one day their teacher is sick. For children who have low adaptability, this might be a calamity. They might be completely stressed, feeling worried and anxious because they don't know what to expect with this new person and it's a change in the routine. So that they might not sleep well that night, wondering if that perfectly fine substitute teacher is going to be there, or if their favorite teacher that they were comfortable with is going to be there. Our job as parents is to help the child make that transition by talking to them about how they feel, by allowing them to practice how they can talk to themselves. Because if we teach children the ability to self talk by talking through with them how they're feeling, they will be independent when we're not there to talk themselves through things that are difficult in areas that might change in their life. If you have a child who's high in adaptability and in school, their life might be a little bit challenging because they might get bored with the routine of school and they might crave change because they handle change so well. They might be the ones to push the boundaries and say, well, I want to go on the steep slope. Whereas the child with low adaptability is quite happy managing on the slope that they're good at that moment. So it's important to support our children at every level and to be aware that the high adaptability child can have stresses as well. but we have to reinforce the importance of routine, just to be sensitive about how they are experiencing that routine. Think about your child as an adolescent. It's hard sometimes to think about that when they're younger, but guaranteed they're all going to be adolescents. If you put the lens of adaptability on the experience of the several years where they're transitioning from being a child to an adolescent, that is a huge change. And that's not just physiological changes, that's emotional changes, that's relationship changes. What we do now with our children is really going to help them deal with the challenges of the change, which that train is coming, you can't stop it. So I think we have a wonderful opportunity to help our children with all the transitions of life. If we think of ourselves in the workplace setting, it's very easy to see those of us who might be very high in adaptability that we wouldn't be stressed out if a deadline changed or a project was suddenly completely changed. But we would be aware of those on our team who would be completely thrown by having to change the plan, by having to be able to adapt to a completely different expectation. That is something that follows us from childhood all the way through. It's not immutable. We can change how we respond to things by practicing and getting the support of the family. So, birth is not destiny. With this idea of adaptability, our world will be full of change. Your children will have change every day in their lives. We can help them adjust to whatever those changes are.